Get this video going for 4.2. These are the problems to complete. I got number one. It says identify the intercepts. That's already in the point slope form. That means my slope is going to be 2. I'm going to have a intercept at, let's see, the slope. I guess I should put m equals 2. And then my x is over here, which will make it a positive 2x, or positive 2, excuse me. And since this is negative 2 for my y, this would be a positive 2. Okay? I know this because this is in the form of y minus y1, right? So that means that negative belongs to the formula. Just like over here, this is x minus x1. See, that negative belongs to that one. So now I'm going to have to go ahead and make my graph. When I make my graph, see, there's my formula there, right? That means my slope is 2. It passes through 2 and 2. When I make my graph, I'll go 2 and 2. And then I'll remember my slope is 2, which is 2 over 1, right? Which means I go up 2 and over 1, right? So I'll go up 2 and over 1, which means I also go down 2 and back 1. And that tells me there that it's going to cross through this point. And all this, you'll notice, is by 2's, right? This is negative 2, which means this is negative 2 over here. And this is negative 4, right? So my y-intercept is going to be negative 2. And if this is negative 2, or positive 2, excuse me, and it goes halfway through, then this must be 1. So it looks like my x-intercept is going to be 1. And then my y-intercept, that's going to be negative 2. And well, that's it. My x-intercept is 1, and my y-intercept is negative 2. All right, number 2 is yours to do. Number 3 says, oh, it's more of the same. So once again, I know just by looking at this, my slope is going to be negative 3. Let's see, I know that it's going to pass through, well, x is negative 1, and they kept it like this, negative 1. All right, they kept it separate. They did not put them together. So that means this is negative 9. Okay, now that means I'll make my graph. As you can see here, once again, I have my slope is negative 3. It passes through negative 1 and negative 9, right? I'll draw that out and put it at negative 1 and negative 9. And then my slope is negative 3, so that means I'm going to go down 3 and over 1, right? Down 3 and over 1. So when I do that, I'm going, remember this is 9, I'm going down 3 to negative 12 and over 1. That's going to put me at negative 12 being my y-intercept. So y will be negative 12. My x-intercept, a little trickier, remember I'm here and my slope is 3, so that means I'm going up 3, right, and over 1. Let's see, yeah, up 3 and over 1, up 3 again and over 1, and then up 3 again and over 1. And if this is negative 2 and this is negative 6, this must be negative 4. So my x-intercept is negative 4. All right, and let's see how we did. Yep, my x-intercept is negative 4, my y-intercept is negative 12. All right, number 4 is for you to do. Number 5, it says write the equation in point-slope form that passes through the given point. Okay, if I do this, I know that my slope is 2, and my x is going to be 1, my y is going to be 2. I guess if I wrote this out, just remember this is y minus y1 equals m, right, times x minus x1. So m obviously is 2. x minus, and my x is 2, right? So I'm going to put 2 over here. And then my y1, right, will be right there, y, and that would be a negative one. Notice that they become the opposite sign, right? And so I should have y minus 1 equals 2 times x minus 2. All right? See how that worked out for me? There you go. Y minus 1 equals 2 times x minus 2. And then we graph it out, right? To show that we are at 2 and 1, right? There's 2 and 1. And then my slope is, of course, going to be a rise of 2 and over 1, right? Rise of 2 and over 1. All right, number 7. You got number 6. I'm doing number 7. And I'm going to try to write this stuff out of the way this time over here. This time I have y minus. Remember, this is my y. This is my x. So I'm going to have a negative 4, right? Negative 4. And that's going to equal m, which is negative 6, times x minus, and I got 7 over here. And now I have a negative times a negative, so this is really going to be y plus 4 equals negative 6 times x minus 7. All right? And then I plot that on my graph. So there's my formula, y plus 4 equals negative 6 x times x plus minus 7, right? I simply go to my 7 and negative 4 on my graph, and then I would go down 6 and over 1, or up 6 and back 1, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and back 1. All right? Number 8 is for you to do. I'm moving on. Number 13 says write the equation slope-intercept form. I would take these into my slope formula. Let's not forget that my slope formula is going to be y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, right? And that'll give us our slope, m. When we do this, and you can see that they put it there, I'm going to go ahead and erase what I've got so you can see there's clear. They took, it looks like they made this one, yeah, the y is 1, so they made this one 2 and this one 1, okay? This is my y2 then, it will be 1 minus negative 3, that's what they got here, 1 minus negative 3, and then 3 minus 1. See, and they got it here, 3 minus 1. Well, negative times a negative, that's a positive, and 1 plus 1 is 4, and 3 minus 1 is 2. 4 divided by 2 is 2. I found my slope. Now I'm going to plug that in my formula, for m, and then I already know that I'm going to use one of these formulas. I'm going to go, looks like they used negative 1 and 3, so they used, let's see, actually positive 1 and 3. So let's see, positive 1 for y is over here, and then 3 for x is there. So that's the one that they plugged in there, right? And now they distributed properties, 2 times x, well, that's where they got 2x. And for some reason, they forgot to put a 2 over here. You can see that. We're going to write the 2 in because that was their mistake. And then 2 times negative 3, which would be negative 6. All right, and then they would turn it to linear form, right? We're writing equation slope-intercept form, excuse me. And then opposite of negative 1 is positive 1. They add 1 to both sides. Negative 6 plus 1 is negative 5. So now we have y is equal to 2x minus 5. All right, I'm going to do number 15 now. Once again, they plugged in the slope formula. They took 4, right, and they minus 2, and they took negative 6 and minus negative 2. 4 minus 2, of course, is 2. Negative times a negative is a positive, so negative 6 plus 2 will give us negative 4. That gives us a negative 1/2 for our slope. Now I plug in my two coordinates. I'm going to go with -2 and 2. So x was -2, so we're plugging that in as minus -2, which means a negative times a negative will give us a positive. And then y was +2, so that will go right behind the negative sign. And now we distribute properties again. We're going to take -1/2 times x, that gives us -1/2 x. And then we get -1/2 times +2, that gives us a -1. And now we get rid of the -2 by adding 2 to both sides. And now we've got -1 plus 2, which is 1. So my slope-intercept form will be y equals -1/2 x plus 1. All right, let's move on. Number 17 says write an equation of slope formula. Again, we're taking x and y here. We don't need a graph because we still got the coordinates, x and y, right? Again, we can use the slope formula. Just plug these in. And when we do, you see that we've got 12 minus 2 and 2 minus 7. 12 minus 2, 2 minus 7. 12 minus 2 is 10. 2 minus 7 is -5. 10 divided by -5 is -2. There's our slope that we'll replace m with, -2. Then we're going to use, looks like 7 and 2. So we're plugging x for 7. That means -7, right? And then we're plugging in y for 2. That'll make it a -2. Now we're going to distribute properties again. This will give us -2 times x, which gives us -2x, and -2 times -7, which gives us a +14. When we isolate y, we got to get rid of the -2, which means we'll add 2 to both sides. 14 plus 2 is 16, so y equals -2x plus 16. All right, number 18 is for you to do. Number 19, again, we're plugging in these numbers, right? We remember that this is x, this is y. Looks like this time they decided to take -9 and -9 and -3 and -1. This in the end is going to give us a slope of 0. We'll replace m with 0, okay? We're going to use my y is -9, right? And we're going to replace our x with 1, all right? Well, 0 times anything is 0, right? And negative times a negative is a positive. But to get that +9 to the other side, we'll have to combine it with a -9, which means we'll have to subtract 9 from the other side. And y is going to equal -9. 20 is for you to do. 23, this is not that hard. We have to remember that this is, if f of x is y, then this is y. And that means this was f of x, x is 2, which means this is x and this is y. Once again, we can use our slope formula, right? We'll plug these in. We've got -2 minus 1, oh, I'm sorry, we're taking 1 minus -2 this time, and we're taking 1 minus 2. Negative times a negative is a positive. 1 plus 2 is 3. 1 minus 2 is -1. This gives me -3 as a slope. Now we're going to plug in the numbers, 1 and negative, or 1 and 1, which will make them both -1 in our formula, right? -1 and -1. -3 times x is -3x. -3 times -1, sorry about that, is going to give us -3 times -1 will give us a +3. Then we add 1 to both sides to get rid of this -1. And that gives us y equals -3x. 3 plus 1 is 4. All right? 24 is yours to do. 25, again, we're going to label this. X and y. X and y. Once again, we plug it in. We're going to take -3 minus 2. We're taking 6 minus 4. Negative times a negative is a positive. -3 minus 2 is -5. 6 plus 4 is 10. And that gives us a -1/2 for our slope. We're going to plug in the numbers 6 and 3. 6 being x, so it becomes -6. Y being -3, so it'll become a +3. We're going to take this -1/2 times x and give us -1/2 x, and -1/2 times -6 will give us a +3. Then we're going to subtract 3 from both sides. and that leaves us y equals negative 1/2 x. All right, let's go to number 29. It's good to, it's saying tell whether the data, the table can be modeled by a linear equation. Okay, so we've got to make sure that every one of these has the same slope. All right, to do this, I remember all these are x and all these are y. So I can check every one of them with the slope formula. So we've got 5 minus negative 1 for my y and 4 minus 2 for my x. This is going to give me 5 plus 1, which is 6, 4 minus 2, which is 2. That gives me a slope of 3. Then we're going to take 15 minus 5, which is 10, and 6 minus 4, which is 2. And 10 divided by 2 is 5. That is not equal 3. Even if we go further on and take 29 minus 15, which equals 14, and 8 minus 6, which equals 2, 14 divided by 2 is 7. And over here, 47 minus 29 is going to give us 18, and 10 minus 8 will give us 2. 18 divided by 2 is 9. None of these are the same. So because the y values are not changing at a constant rate, the data cannot be modeled by a linear equation. It's not going to make a line. We could have done it a different way, the way the book shows before. Said, what's the increase here? By 2, by 2, by 2, by 2, right? What's the increase over here? This is by 6. This is by 10. This is by, looks like 14. And this is by 18, right? So when you look at this, none of these are the same, okay? So since this is not the same, this is not going to give me a linear equation. All right, number 31 is mine to do. It says a homeowner charges a processing fee and a daily fee to rent the house. Table shows this. Remember, when I do this, my first line is always going to be my x, and my second one's almost always going to be my y, okay? So now I can figure this out pretty easily. I'm going to go ahead and check first. Can it be modeled as a linear equation? I'm going to take 467 and minus 258. Then I'm going to divide, take 4 and minus 2, and that's going to give me 209. And 209 minus divided by 2 is 104.5. Now I'm going to take 676 minus 467, and then take 6 minus 4. Again, this is going to give me 209 divided by 2, which is 104.5. Lastly, I'll take 885 minus 676 and take 8 minus 6, which is 2. Again, this is going to give me 209 divided by 2, which gives me 104.5. Because the rate of change is constant, this can be modeled by a linear equation. So now we can go ahead and make what's the processing fee and daily fee? We can make our point formula, right? Point slope formula. So if I do this, I've got my slope. My slope is 104.5 over 1. And I've got an x and y coordinates here. So I'm just going to move this out of the way again. It says, what is the processing fee and the daily fee? So remember, we're going with y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. I'm going to use y1 would be 258, right? And then my x1 is going to be 2. So this would be a negative 258 and a negative 2. 104.5 times x is 104.5x. 104.5 times negative 2 is negative 209. I'm going to have to add 258 to both sides to isolate my variable y, and that gives me y equals 104.5x plus 49, right? Take the big number minus the small number, keep the sign of the big number. That means the processing fee, right, what I'm getting charged to process is $49, and my daily fee is $104.5. Now it says a guest is spending more than $1,200 on the house rental. What is the maximum number of days the guest can rent the house? Well, this isn't that hard because we're going to take this formula we have here and put it, it says no more than, so it will be less than or equal to 1,200, right? 104.5x plus 49 has to be less than or equal to 1,200, which is representing y now. This is going to give, to isolate my variable, I'll subtract 49 from both sides, leaving me with 104.5x is less than or equal to 1,151. Then I'll divide 104.5 away from x, which means I'll divide it from 1,151. And that leaves us with 11.01435,409. That means the maximum number of days the guest can stay is 11. We're not going to let them stay 0.01435,407 parts of the day, right? Let's go on to number 32. That one's yours to do, which means number 33 is mine. This one says describe and correct the error writing in the equation, the line that passes through 4 and -5 has a slope of m equals -2. Well, the slope is correct, -2. My x should have been -4, right? And it is. And then my y should be the opposite of -5, which will end up being +5. Oh, that's where the mistake is. They put y plus instead of y minus. And that would have been a negative times a negative, which would have gave us a positive. So over here you can see that we should have had y, right? A negative times a negative should have equaled y plus 5 equals -2 times x minus 4. All right, 34 is yours to do. And I think that's all of mine. Looks like I'm ready to stop my part of the video. Good luck with the rest of yours, and see you in class for grading.